So, Nick, the character you play in Graves, Richard Graves, former president of the United States, he has the ubiquitous reputation as being the worst president in U.S. history. I wonder, with current events going on right now, do you think he's going to be able to hold on to that title for much longer?
Well, I would hope he'd be able to hold on to it, because it takes away a little of our gunpowder in the show. But I don't imagine he will. I think the appeal of the show is that 25 years after being in a position of being president or something, it's not a learned profession. They're doing it in the moment. Yeah, there's a lot of guards and guardianship that the president can't overdo this or he can't overdo that. There's a lot of checkpoints in democracy in our government. But he sets the policy and all of this. So Graves, who was a Republican, he made decisions on the run with advice that he regrets now. And many of them were his own thinking at the time. And of course, the first show is him going back and correcting his mistakes. How would an ex-president do that? He can't do it politically, but he can do it by showing interest in the new thinking that he has, especially on immigration. In fact, we had an episode that the Supreme Court hadn't ruled on, and we had written the script, which was a marriage of same-sex marriage. I didn't think the Supreme Court would pass it. We were taking bets, and the Supreme Court passed it, and then we did the show, and Barney Frank showed up, and it was really a very funny show to do. So, we're dealing with reality of the time, and if our writers can catch up with the time of what's happening, we will put it in. Not to make fun of it, but just to bounce off the idea of what is happening now, what happened back then, how your decisions back in the 60s are so different from the decisions made now. That time has definitely an effect on decision-making process. And that's where our humor comes from, So it's a family. Basically, my wife's going to run for Senate. She'll be running for Senate. And my assistant, who took a bullet from me in the last show, even though I've been shot 3 times in my presidency, is now come out to go find me, which I'm hiding away from, trying to stay out of the public eye. That's part of that recognizable hell that happens to people. Some people, some want it, some don't, but if you get caught up in it, you're in what they call the fame, quote, spotlight, which is difficult.
To that point, did you base this on anybody in particular? I mean, because there's echoes of like Reagan in there.
Yeah. No, if you banked it on any one president, you'd be very limited,
Right.
Because they all definitely had a definite personality, dealt with different issues. So as we came to the issues, I would just look. I've been alive since 1941. So I remember Truman, really, is who I remember, because Roosevelt, I was too young, and it was after World War II, and in the serials at the theater, they used to run newsreels, and everybody would boo Truman. So I didn't know, I was 8, 9 years old, so we'd all boo, but Truman did a lot of good things. So all the way from Truman to Kennedy, some Nixon, a lot of LBJ comes in, and I find this episode relates more to an LBJ kind of thing. We're in the LBJ phase now. After LBJ didn't run for a second term, and he had done a lot with civil rights and all this. Kennedy had started it, but he inherited the Vietnam War, couldn't handle it. I mean, war has got to be difficult for a president to have those lives as your decision, part of your decision process. So LBJ didn't run, and he went out to his ranch and grew long hair and beard, and he hid out. He didn't live long, much after his presidency. So we're kind of in that phase. My wife's running for Senate. I don't want to be around. I know if I'm around, they're going to ask me questions over her issues, her policies, what she's going to do for people. And that's what a public servant is, you know. I don't know how much public service Trump had, but, you know, he had service for sure, but not public service. I had an argument with him in the park in New York City once.
Really?
About hair. And long blonde hair. He had just married Marilyn.
Marla Maples?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't tell this story. But, well, he thought I had a Goldilocks kind of hair, and he came over and he touched me. Oh, that's baby fine hair. That's terrible hair. And I grabbed his red bristle and I said, well, that's a bristle pad. Then we argued for about 20 minutes in a jocular way, you know, and it just, you know, back and forth a little bit. I didn't remember this event. My ex-wife did. She called me up. And then, do you remember the argument? Yeah, you know, so I thought, well, okay. You know, so it doesn't mean anything, you know, but, you know,
right.
I have met him.
In this show, this character is looking back on his legacy as someone who's had a long career. Were you able to bring any kind of personal experience to that?
Oh, yeah. That's actors bring their own personal experience. You know, I'm pushing 80. So I don't think there's any way to age without pain, you know. I don't think there's any way to be born without some shock or surprise, you know. I've had home births and hospital births and lost children, and it's always devastating. But aging, Katharine Hepburn said to me, because she used to get she jumped in the Venice Canal for George Cukor on a film. Well, nobody jumps in the Venice Canal because you know what those canals are made of, but she did. And she got a virus that would affect her eye when she got in stressful moments. And we were working, and it was a big scene was coming up, and she got stressed and her eye closed. And all she said to me, this aging, Nick, is just boring. It's boring. So that was the politest comment I heard about it. So yeah, the Graves is stuck with this job that now, especially as ex-president, he's going through the process of old age, which is good too, because that's something America doesn't address much. You know, we just, our parents get old and we help them out. And, you know, if they go a little mental off, oh my God, Grandma's got, she had what do we call it? She's a little thinking strange, I guess, or something like that. She was the head of moral union at Iowa State College. So she would get up every morning and be at the Memorial Union talking to people that weren't there, and bothered my father a lot. He would say, now, Grandma, you know there's nobody there. Say, you just don't know Lang, do you? We with such conviction. It's kind of spooky, you know. So yeah, you use yourself, you know, you use yourself what you're going through. Now, if the character isn't going through that, then that's how you get character, by limiting what your reactions are to. And you know, and sometimes people think that acting is putting things on. It's really a matter of taking things off, you know, as far as the silence or the type of person you're playing or whatever it is. All the presidents are everyday people, you know. They just either got in public service early or, but they have this need to help others, you know, most of them do. And that's kind of an interesting thing. It's a lot of fun to do. It's a lot of fun to do. And I hope that we can be funny enough, you know, because we got a funny president.
Well, were you guys shooting this while the election was going on? I mean, it was like 2 years.
No, we were just finishing up as the election was starting to kick up.
Okay.
And he came into the running as kind of an independent. He wouldn't say he was Republican. And then we weren't shooting when all this developed, you know.
Okay.
We had finished by August, and the election was, I don't remember when it was.
November.
November,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, September, October. Okay, it was, you know, it was just beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like, I think everybody in America are very surprised at how he's conducting being president. And some things work and some things don't work, you know. So we're learning a lot, you know. And some things are, you know, he had his own television show, so my complaint used to be about the presidents that they haven't learned enough camera time. You know, Ronald Reagan was called the great communicator, and at best he was a B action actor, you know.
Yeah.
But he used that presence and comfort with the camera to be able to really communicate. You know. And Obama, I thought, was excellent at it, you know. But that takes time.
There are people in the show who look up to your character, particularly your young assistant
Yeah.
early on. That kind of hero worshiping. Can you talk a bit about that in regards to your character?
Well, I think, yeah, all of our characters have a dysfunctionality. You know, if you play all your characters great, you know, everything is good, you're not really representing life. So Isaiah's dysfunctionality is that he is a young man who's looked up to this Republican president that did some good things. But he catches the presidency 25 years out of office, and at his most critical time. I mean, you are your worst critic. That's just the way it is. You'll never be critiqued as bad as you critique yourself. If you've got any perfection in you at all, you know, you'll be hard on yourself. So it's, these are the flaws of Isaiah, because he's a little wowed too innocently. And with Graves, who is very blunt about reality, in fact, more so over with Isaiah than anybody, knowing that the best thing for Isaiah is to get the experience. I don't care how it comes. If it comes across hard, then it's going to have to come across hard. And for the comedy itself, it comes across pretty hard. And then it goes to an extreme that nobody wanted it to. They let out a fellow that had shot the president 3 times because his mother was having cancer. He's been in prison for 30, 40 years. And they let him out, and he goes right back to it. And Isaiah sees it and steps in front of the bullet. But, you know, so that's the kind of thing, you know. Now, Isaiah's obviously going to grow, and which he does, you know, in the second season, as does my wife, who has been watching me do politics for years, you know. But she's a very good politician herself, and so the show is going to develop. She's running for Senate. She'll probably win. I'll show up on the night she wins, you know. It's best I be out of the way. And Isaiah won't be involved. And my son has become an internet host and says outrageous things, you know, as you only can on the internet, you know, and becomes very successful and is going through maybe too much success, you know. And my daughter has decided to have a natural birth in the living room, you know, which is against the Graves policy, you know. My wife has set up for her to have a C-section, you know, because she doesn't think her daughter can stand the pain, you know. So,
Right.
you know, that's the absurdity of it, you know. I don't know how the birthing, I'm not a woman, so I can't tell, but I don't know how this whole pain issue became, well, it's a big experience, you know, the birth. But I've had home birth, and if the woman understands the difference between pain and contraction, you can make it through, you know. Mm-hmm. It's only as long as the contraction lasts, you know. We've been doing that for thousands of years. I don't know why we started laying women on their back and having males give birth.
Right.
You know, it's screwy what we do. And now you're getting back to it, you know. Women know that there's gravity and we should use gravity to birth, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these little insights that are going into it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We have Josh is the director. He's writing, and I think we have 4 female writers too. So that's a unique perspective too. And they're getting to know the characters well. So I'm looking forward to this next season.
Yeah.
You know, and see where we go. There's a lot of territory to go. You know, it's a family show. It's a father and mother, 2 kids, and how they're all very engaged in life, and so it's pretty interesting. Our maid quit, which is the most shocking thing of all.
Right.
If the maid quits, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You know.
Before we go, I wanted to ask you, you've received 3 Oscar nominations in your career, Emmy nomination, Golden Globe win. What does that kind of recognition mean for you in your career?
Well, you'd think that would count for some kind of confidence, but it doesn't. It really doesn't. Maybe that night, you know, if you lose, it shakes you a bit. So you would think just being nominated, you should have get. No, acting is really an everyday kind of thing. It's really hard work. It's not real simple. You've got to keep the circumstances that you're playing in the foremost, because its reality is based on imagination, and so your imagination has to take effect. I don't believe in learning lines. You can't memorize lines, so you just try to get your character in the circumstances so deeply that the only words he could use are the words that are written. There might be 2 or 3 lines, versions different. That started way back when I started theater. I used to write out a Tennessee Williams band a play in longhand. So I would spend enough time on each word to know why Tennessee chose that word. And then you don't have to memorize, you know. It's kind of a scaffolding you're building, and then the words just fit in that scaffolding. And you don't really memorize it, you know.
Yeah.
And then there'll be the day when they say, okay, we'll do this scene. And, I'm ready for that. You know, haven't learned that.
Yeah.
But you'll go ahead and do it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm in the process of just building that on this season. We've got maybe 5 scripts. Then I hope this year that our network is out there pushing, trying to get it out in front. We had choices, and we chose these guys because we thought they really wanted to build a network, really wanted to have a show. And I think they're behind us 100%, so that's where we're at.
I look forward to it. Nick Nolte, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.